Why do underdogs keep winning at the World Cup? Every World Cup, football fans tell themselves the same thing. The biggest nations will dominate. The favorites will cruise through the group stage. The giants of football will remind everyone why they're giants. And then something strange happens. A heavily favored team drops points. A powerhouse gets stunned. A nation nobody expected suddenly becomes the story of the tournament. And suddenly the question returns. Why do underdogs keep winning at the World Cup? Is it luck? Is it mentality? Is it tactics? Or is something much bigger happening right in front of us? Because if you've been watching this World Cup closely, you've probably noticed something. The gap between football's elite and everyone else doesn't seem as large as it used to. And that could be changing football forever. Let's start with a simple fact. Football is unique. Unlike basketball, unlike American football, unlike rugby. In football, one goal can change everything. A single mistake, a single deflection, a single counterattack. That's all it takes. A team can dominate possession for 90 minutes. They can have 20 shots. They can create chance after chance and still lose. That's why football creates more upsets than almost any major sport. But that explanation alone isn't enough anymore. Because what we're seeing isn't just underdogs getting lucky. We're seeing underdogs competing. We're seeing underdogs controlling games. We're seeing underdogs looking like they belong. And that's a very different conversation. Take Australia. Before the tournament began, very few people were talking about them. Most predictions had them struggling to escape their group. Then they faced Turkey, a team loaded with talent, a team many believed would dominate possession. And dominate possession they did. Turkey controlled the ball. Turkey controlled territory. Turkey outshot Australia, yet Australia won, comfortably. The old explanation would be simple. They got lucky. But watch the match. Australia weren't lucky. They were organized, disciplined, confident. They knew exactly how they wanted to play. And that's becoming a trend among football's so-called smaller nations. The underdogs aren't arriving hoping to survive anymore. They're arriving expecting to compete. Now think about Morocco. Think about Croatia. Think about Japan. Think about South Korea. Think about Saudi Arabia beating Argentina in 2022. Think about countless World Cup surprises over the last decade. What do they all have in common? It's not luck. It's preparation. Modern football knowledge has gone global. 20 years ago, the biggest football nations had huge advantages. Better coaching, better facilities, better sports science, better scouting, better tactical education. Today, those advantages are shrinking. A coach in Morocco can study the exact same tactical systems used in Madrid. A player in Australia can analyze Premier League footage daily. A federation in Asia can hire elite European coaches. The information gap has disappeared. And once the information gap disappears, the talent gap starts shrinking too. Here's something many fans don't realize. A huge percentage of players representing underdog nations now play in Europe's top leagues. They aren't arriving from obscure leagues anymore. They're arriving from England, Spain, Germany, Italy, France. They're playing against world-class opposition every single week. So when they arrive at a World Cup and face one of football's giants, they're not intimidated because they've already faced players just as good. And then there's another factor: pressure. The favorites carry enormous pressure. Imagine playing for Brazil, Argentina, France, England, Germany. Anything less than success feels like failure. A draw becomes a crisis. A defeat becomes a national emergency. Every mistake is magnified. Every missed chance is analyzed. Every decision becomes front-page news. Now compare that to an underdog. Their players enter with freedom. Nobody expects them to win. Nobody expects them to dominate. Every positive result feels like a bonus. And psychologically, that's a massive advantage. Because football is often decided by confidence. And confidence is easier to find when nobody expects anything from you. Think about what happens when an underdog scores first. The favorite suddenly becomes nervous. The crowd becomes anxious. The players start rushing passes. The pressure doubles. Meanwhile, the underdog becomes more confident with every minute. One goal doesn't just change the scoreboard. It changes the psychology of the entire match. But perhaps the biggest reason of all is tactical evolution. For decades, underdogs tried to play like favorites, and it rarely worked. They would attempt to match superior teams possession for possession, pass for pass, player for player. The result? Disaster. Today, underdogs have become smarter. Instead of trying to imitate elite teams, they've built systems designed specifically to beat them. Compact defensive blocks, aggressive transitions, set-piece specialists, counter-attacking structures. They know exactly where their strengths lie. And more importantly, they know where the favorites are vulnerable. Modern underdogs don't need 60% possession. They don't need 20 shots. They only need 3 or 4 moments. And when those moments arrive, they're ready. Now let's ask the bigger question. Is world football actually catching up? The answer might be yes. For decades, football had a clear hierarchy. South America and Europe sat at the top. Everyone else chased them. But look around today. African nations have world-class players everywhere. Asian football continues to improve. North American football is growing rapidly. Oceania has produced stronger players than ever before. The talent pool has never been deeper. The infrastructure has never been stronger. The coaching has never been better. The world isn't catching up slowly anymore. It's catching up fast. And the World Cup is where we see the evidence. Because unlike club football, where money can separate teams dramatically, international football is different. Every nation gets one chance. Every nation gets their best players. Every nation gets 90 minutes. And increasingly, that's all they need. Think about it. The best footballer from Morocco represents Morocco. The best footballer from Japan represents Japan. The best footballer from Australia represents Australia. Talent isn't concentrated the same way it is at club level, which means international football naturally becomes more competitive over time. But here's the scary part for football's traditional giants. This trend might only be beginning. Every year, more players emerge from non-traditional football nations. Every year, youth development improves. Every year, technology makes elite coaching more accessible. Every year, the football world becomes more connected. And that means future underdogs may not even be considered underdogs anymore. Maybe we're witnessing the end of football's old hierarchy. Maybe we're watching the beginning of a new era. An era where the difference between the 20th ranked team and the 5th ranked team is almost nothing. An era where every group contains danger. An era where every match matters. An era where anybody can beat anybody. And honestly, that's exactly what makes the World Cup special. Because nobody watches the tournament hoping the favorites win every game. We watch because we believe something impossible might happen. We watch because we believe a nation can dream. We watch because football keeps reminding us that predictions aren't guarantees. And every time an underdog wins, every time a giant falls, every time a nation shocks the World Cup becomes a little more magical. Maybe the underdogs aren't getting lucky. Maybe they're finally getting the respect they deserve. Maybe the rest of the football world really is catching up. And if that's true, then the biggest shock of all isn't that underdogs keep winning. It's that we're still surprised when they do. Because at this World Cup, one thing has become clear. The gap is closing. The giants are vulnerable. The underdogs are fearless. And football has never been more unpredictable.